Today we're on the second floor at the Commissioner's house, and we're going to be looking at the painting at the head of the staircase. We're going to be looking at some poulticing that we're doing on the first floor and the window shutter that we've discovered recently. Firstly, I'd like to introduce my colleague Alex, who is going to discuss the painting.
The shining star of the Commissioner's house is the ceiling painting. Commissioned at the turn of the 18th century for the HMS Royal Sovereign, it was painted by James Thornhill and Thomas Highmore. The HMS Royal Sovereign was the flagship of the Portsmouth fleet during the 7 Years' War, and it was a ship known for its grandeur and opulence, and hence this piece was created for the grand cabin. We think this piece sat about 7 foot from the floor, so that would have been very close for the Admiral for his viewing, and it is a bit unusual for a piece like this because it's designed to be viewed from very far below. So when you look at it from such a close perspective as I am now, this perspective of the piece is really skewed. The conservator working on this piece found some candle smuts on the surface of the image, which suggests that there was candles or a candelabra directly underneath this piece in very close proximity, and the heat from those candles damaged the surface of the painting. So as far as we know, this is an untitled piece, and it depicts the gods Neptune and Mars surrounded by an assembly of other gods, some cherubs, justice, and a few other figures throughout. So this central section is what would have originally been in the grand cabin and what you would have seen on the ceiling there. And these sections and spandrels down the side are extra pieces taken from other cabins that are filling the ceiling in the Commissioner's house. In 2023, we undertook a condition survey of the painting in situ and discovered there were several key areas that needed addressing, mainly being overpainting, so where somebody had taken new paint and painted over the historic layers in the past. There was failing resin that was causing discoloration and dulling across the piece, and there were also a couple of areas of loss that needed infilling and some cracks throughout, made by changes in the humidity and the environment of where the ceiling painting sits. This is a really specialist piece of work, and where it is in situ makes it really difficult to work on. So we employed Francis Downing, ACR and head of the Icons Paintings Group, to look at this particular piece for us. So the first stage of any conservation project is the cleaning of the piece, and when I say cleaning I mean surface dirt that needs to come off that's been there over a period of time, like dust and various other debris from the house. But as you can tell, this relief frame is quite ornate and it's quite complex. It's nautically themed, it's got a lot of fish, birds and crabs sort of throughout the piece, but to get a brush into here is quite difficult. So delicate surface cleaning with brushes and sponges was undertaken first. So in the past, this piece has been finished with a resin varnish, possibly around the 1980s, and that varnish has discoloured and broken down over time. Unfortunately, whoever did this conservation work in the past has applied a heavy solvent over the paint layers, and that resin has interacted with the paint layer and the solvents and created damage in some of these areas that now can't be reversed. But Francis has reversed most of the resin varnish over the top of the piece, and he was able then to access the paint layers behind for conservation work. Once Francis had access to the paint layers, it was clear that there are a couple of losses throughout and a few areas that needed retouching. It's conservation practice that we don't retouch where we don't need to, so only a very minute amount of in-painting was applied, and some areas were infilled, some cracks were refilled, and across the gilded surface here, some of these pieces were re-adhered and re-gilded with gold. As a final stage, the entire piece was coated in a new synthetic resin which will protect against UV and light damage. Our windows have been protected with a UV film, and that will ensure that this piece is protected from heavy light damage for years to come.
So we're still on the second floor, and this is the Victory Room. When we stripped all the plaster and the backings and laths off of this room, we found we had a couple of parallel lines here and a different type of panelling in this area. We gained consent from Historical England and we removed the panel, and it's revealed this lovely shutter. And we feel that the shutter is probably original to the building, but the most interesting fact is that it still works. We can see the bricked up window behind. So we can assume that the commissioner or the commissioner's butler or someone in the household shut these windows in probably 1790s, maybe even as late as 1800, and the window was bricked up and the shutter has never been opened again until we did it the other day. We're not exactly sure on the date because we've got a few varying dates. We know the window is in existence on our Dockyard model, 1774. We know it's in the painting of 1784. We also know that the windows were bricked up to help strengthen the building. The building was starting to move a little bit. There's no internal solid walls for this building at all. So we know that they bricked up the windows that ran on both levels at some point in the late 1700s. And this white staining here is a result of the mortar snots that fell through as the bricklayer was bricking up the window and was left behind. When we opened the shutter, they came away and they fell down onto the floor. So all the whole life for the last 200 years, it has been shut up, concealed, and we discovered it only the other week. We've started to rebuild the shutter box around the window. We know that this was the pattern, this was the style, this was how it was put together with a window seat, because we've got exactly the same for the rest of the windows in the room. So we're going to close up the shutters again, but the intention is that once we've finished, we will be leaving these shutters in the colour that they are at the moment. We'll just wipe them down and it will hark back to how this room was originally painted. We're now on the first floor of the Commissioner's house in the Sun Annex, and we're looking at the mouldings and how we're cleaning them. So Simon here is cleaning off the poultice that we applied 24 hours ago, and it's removing all the layers of paint and leaving us with the original plaster moulding that we can see in all its glory. And here we've got Veronica, who has already removed her poultice and is now cleaning out the mouldings with a timber skewer stick. And Veronica is using a steamer to clean the last little bits of paint and debris out of the mouldings so that we end up with a nice crisp moulding as it should be. So where are we with the restoration of Commissioner's house? Well, we're now standing in the Revenge room on the first floor, and as you can see, we've finally got some colour on the walls. We've cross-lined the ceilings and painted them, and we're continuing now until we can open the house in the middle of summer.